Ethan Cole had never expected his first deep space assignment to feel so quiet. The diplomatic ship HSS Wayfarer moved slowly through the blue haze of the Velari border system, its engines humming like a distant heartbeat. Outside the viewports, a pale star glowed softly, surrounded by rings of dust and light. It was beautiful in a calm, distant way. Ethan watched it and reminded himself to breathe. He was not a soldier. He was not a hero. He was a junior linguistics officer, chosen because he learned alien languages faster than most humans and because he stayed calm under pressure. At least, that was what his file said. In truth, Ethan had a habit of speaking before thinking, especially when nervous. This mission mattered. Humanity's first deep cultural exchange with the Velari Union could decide whether humans would be welcomed into a larger galactic community or pushed back into isolation. The Velari were known for order, control, and emotional restraint. They respected rules more than feelings. Every movement, every word, every look had meaning. Ethan stood in the preparation chamber with the rest of the human delegation. Captain Reyes adjusted her uniform, her face serious. Scientists, diplomats, and security officers checked their equipment one last time. No one joked. No one smiled. "Remember," the captain said, her voice firm but calm, "Velari customs are strict. Do not touch. Do not use personal language. Do not make direct emotional statements. Speak only through approved translation protocols." Several heads nodded. Ethan nodded too, though his stomach twisted. He repeated the rules in his mind like a list he could not afford to forget. The docking sequence began. A soft vibration passed through the ship as the Wayfarer connected with the Velari station. Outside, long silver structures curved like living art, glowing with faint patterns of light. The station felt less like a machine and more like a carefully shaped organism. The airlock opened. The Velari delegation waited in perfect formation. Tall, slender figures with smooth skin that reflected light in subtle colors. Their eyes were large and dark, their expressions unreadable to human senses. Thin lines of bioluminescence ran along their necks and arms, dim and controlled. Ethan's translator implant activated, feeding gentle tones into his thoughts. He focused. This was it. The lead Velari spoke first, voice calm and even. "Welcome, representatives of Earth. Your arrival has been recorded. You may proceed." Captain Reyes stepped forward and delivered her prepared greeting. Every word was careful, every pause measured. The Velari listened without reaction. Then the Velari escort stepped aside. That was when Ethan saw her. She stood slightly behind the others, holding a data tablet against her chest. Her posture was straight, but there was something softer about her presence. The light patterns on her skin shifted gently, like quiet waves. Her eyes met Ethan's for a brief moment, then looked away. Ethan's heart skipped. It was not fear. It was something simpler and far more dangerous. He did not mean to speak. He did not even realize he had spoken until the silence hit him like a wall. "Wow," Ethan said softly, without thinking. "She's gorgeous." The word hung in the air. The translator processed it instantly and delivered it perfectly into Velari language. The entire chamber froze. The Velari guards stiffened. Light patterns along their arms flared sharply, shifting to warning colors. One of the human security officers took a small step forward, then stopped at a signal from the captain. Ethan's blood turned cold. What did I just do? Captain Reyes turned her head slowly, her eyes sharp enough to cut through steel. Ethan felt his soul leave his body. The young Velari woman's bioluminescent lines flickered wildly, brightening from soft blue to a warm, glowing hue. She stared at Ethan, clearly shocked. Her fingers tightened around her tablet. Then, to everyone's surprise, she spoke. "Repeat," she said, her voice uncertain but clear. "Human, repeat your statement." Ethan swallowed. His mouth felt dry. Every rule screamed at him to stay silent, to apologize, to disappear. But the Velari woman was looking at him, not with anger but confusion and something else he could not name. Ethan began, then stopped. He forced himself to breathe. He spoke again, slowly this time, choosing each word with care. I said, "You are gorgeous." I meant no disrespect. It was honest. The translator carried his words across the room. The Velari woman's light patterns flared brighter than before, spreading across her cheeks and neck. A soft murmur passed through the Velari delegation. This was not supposed to happen. Velari did not react like this in public. Her voice was quieter when she spoke again. You speak of appearance without rank or intent. Yes, Ethan said, his voice steady now. Just truth. Silence followed. Then the lead Velari raised a hand. The guards relaxed, though their lights stayed alert. This exchange is unexpected, the leader said. The human will be recorded for cultural review. Ethan braced for punishment. Instead, the leader turned to the young woman. Observer Cyril, you will accompany the human linguist for further interaction. Her name, Ethan realized. Cyril. Her lights pulsed once, controlled but bright. I will comply. The meeting ended shortly after, though nothing else felt normal. The humans were escorted deeper into the station, their steps echoing through curved corridors that glowed softly underfoot. Ethan walked beside Cyril in careful silence. He could feel her awareness like a physical presence. Every few steps her light patterns shifted, betraying emotions her face did not show. You did not follow protocol, she said at last. I know, Ethan replied. I'm sorry. Apologies are given for harm, Cyril said. I do not yet understand if harm occurred. He glanced at her. Did it? She paused. No. They stopped at a viewing chamber overlooking the star outside. The light filled the room, reflecting off Cyril's skin in gentle colors. In Velari culture, she said slowly, personal praise is shared only in bonded trust. It is not spoken freely, Ethan nodded. For humans, it often is. Sometimes we say things because we feel them, not because we planned them. Her lights dimmed, then brightened again. That is inefficient. He smiled a little. Yeah, we're not known for efficiency. Something shifted between them. Not agreement, but curiosity. Over the next hours, Ethan found himself assigned fully as Cyril's linguistic counterpart. They worked through phrases, gestures, and meanings. Every time he explained a human expression, she listened with intense focus. Why would a human describe beauty aloud, she asked, when it offers no advantage? Ethan thought about it. Because sometimes saying it matters. Sometimes it reminds someone they're seen. Her lights pulsed softly. Seen. As the cycle passed, rumors spread quietly through both delegations. The Velari spoke in controlled whispers about the human who spoke emotion without permission. The humans whispered about the Velari woman who blushed in light. Later, alone in his quarters, Ethan replayed the moment in his mind. He had not planned to change anything. He had only spoken the truth as he felt it. Across the station, Cyril stood by the viewport in her own chamber, watching the distant human ship. Her light patterns glowed softly, uncontrolled, as she repeated a foreign word in her thoughts. Gorgeous. For the first time in her life, a single word had made her feel something she did not yet have a name for. And somewhere between two species, a future had shifted, quietly, honestly, and without permission. Ethan woke early, before the station's soft lights fully glowed. Today was the first joint mission between humans and the Velari, a cultural survey of a nearby system's abandoned research outpost. Captain Reyes had insisted that every human officer take part in these missions, both as observers and as translators. Ethan, however, felt nervous not about the mission, but about working closely with Cyril again. He found her in the corridor, standing straight, her hands folded in the Velari manner. The soft bioluminescent patterns on her arms pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. She noticed him immediately, tilting her head slightly. You are early, she observed. I like to see the station wake up, Ethan said. It feels different from Earth mornings. Her lights brightened, a sign of mild amusement. Your species' emotions are unpredictable. You express interest without immediate purpose. That's just us, Ethan replied with a shrug, smiling. Sometimes we do things because they feel right. Searle's gaze held his for a moment, studying him as if trying to understand why a being would act against efficiency and logic. Then she turned and led the way to the docking bay. The shuttle to the outpost was small, sleek, and quiet. As they approached, Ethan watched the planet rise beneath them, gray and scarred by long-abandoned structures. "So this is the outpost?" he asked. "Yes, abandoned for over 50 cycles," Searle replied. "Its last occupants left for unknown reasons. There are records of research experiments, but none remain operational. Your task is to translate and record data safely." Ethan nodded, but his attention kept drifting to her. Searle moved with precise grace, yet there was a subtle tension in the way her lights flickered. She was curious, cautious, and alive, qualities Ethan admired deeply. As they explored the outpost, a strange silence hung over the hallways. Broken consoles blinked weakly, dust floating in the air. Ethan felt the hairs on his arms rise. It was not fear exactly. It was awareness, a sense that something important lay hidden here, something waiting to be discovered. They reached a control room filled with consoles and holographic displays. Ethan began translating old, human-readable notes left by the Velari researchers decades ago. Searle hovered nearby, her lights dimmed as she observed. "Why are you so interested in these humans' work?" she asked quietly. "They were curious," Ethan said, "just like us. They wanted to understand the universe. Some things never change species to species." Searle's lights shifted softly. "Curiosity is tolerated, but only in controlled environments. They failed." "Maybe they were too careful," Ethan said. "Humans sometimes make mistakes, but we learn from them, and we share what we learn." Searle paused, studying him closely. She had never met a species so willing to admit flaws and still push forward. Her mind, trained for logic, began to reconsider what strength meant. Hours passed. Ethan decoded documents while Searle helped interpret subtle Velari notation. Then a sudden alarm rang. Red lights flashed. The station's emergency communication system crackled with a weak signal. "Unknown energy spike detected in the lower storage levels," Searle said. "It is minor but unusual." Ethan frowned. "Minor maybe, but it's worth checking." They moved quickly, navigating dim corridors. Dust floated in streaks through broken windows. Then, at the end of the hallway, they saw it. A chamber partially collapsed, a strange blue energy pulsating within. Sparks flew, illuminating twisted machinery. Ethan felt a twinge of fear, but he forced himself to stay calm. "Searle, step back," he said, though his voice carried concern. She did not move immediately. Her eyes glimmered with curiosity and caution. "This energy, it is unstable," she said. "It could be dangerous to both our species." Ethan nodded, moving closer to the source. His translator hummed quietly, analyzing the strange signals. He realized that the energy could be remnants of Velari experimental technology. It could be powerful, but without proper control it could explode. "We need to contain it," Ethan said. "Can you help me?" Searle nodded. "Yes, follow my instructions." Together they worked in synchronized movements, Searle guiding Ethan through Velari procedures he had only read about. Sparks flew, machinery hummed, and tension built. But every time Ethan looked at Searle, he saw confidence and trust in her eyes. Her light patterns shifted in response to his presence, soft and steady, giving him courage. Finally, with a final adjustment, the energy stabilized. The blue glow dimmed to a safe, steady pulse. Both breathed heavily, realizing how close they had been to danger. "You acted bravely," Searle said, her lights pulsing warmly. "A human would normally retreat in fear. You did not." Ethan looked at her, surprised. I just did what had to be done, and you didn't hesitate either." For the first time, Searle allowed a small, almost imperceptible shift in her posture, a sign of approval from Velari culture. It was a subtle smile, expressed in light. The rest of the day passed slowly as they catalogued the outpost. Every discovery, every translation, deepened their connection. Searle began asking Ethan about human habits, emotions, and philosophy. He explained why humans spoke freely, why they valued truth even when it caused discomfort, and why small gestures like compliments mattered so much. She listened intently. Every explanation reshaped her understanding of strength, courage, and emotional expression. Her people valued discipline, obedience, and control above all. But she began to see that humans had a power beyond rules, a power that came from honesty, empathy, and courage. As they returned to the station, both exhausted and exhilarated, they were met with an unexpected report. Rival factions within the Velari Union were questioning the presence of humans. Some claimed that humans were manipulating emotions, using charm and flattery as a weapon. Searle's heart pulsed in light and color as she realized that speaking openly about feelings could be dangerous for her now. She was summoned by her superiors. Ethan was left outside, unsure what would happen. He waited, feeling helpless, yet he trusted her. Hours later, Searle returned. Her posture was rigid, but her light patterns flickered with intensity. "They warned me to avoid humans," she said, "to maintain control, to ignore influence." Ethan nodded. "And will you?" Her light softened. "I do not yet understand why a human can speak freely and be brave at the same time. I wish to observe more." Ethan smiled softly. "Then we'll do it together." Later that night, as he rested in his quarters, Ethan thought about the day. He had survived danger, worked alongside a species unlike any other, and seen someone, the young Velari woman, react to him in a way no one else had. And somewhere deep in the station, Searle repeated the word she had heard from him first. Gorgeous. It was no longer just a word. It had become a question, a challenge, a spark of curiosity that refused to be ignored. Both human and Velari were beginning to see the power in honesty, courage, and connection, and neither species would ever be the same again. The mission was far from over. Dangerous rivals, cultural misunderstandings, and the unknown forces of the galaxy awaited. But Ethan and Searle had taken the first step, not just in diplomacy, but in trust, in friendship, and perhaps in something more profound. Across the stars, small sparks of change were forming, and for the first time, two very different beings began to understand the true strength of a human heart. The galaxy was watching, and humanity had already begun to shine. The council chamber was vast, glowing with soft white light and filled with the quiet hum of anticipation. Velari delegates took their seats in curved rows, their lights dim and controlled. Humans sat across from them, tense but prepared. At the center, Searle stood, her posture straight and proud, her bioluminescent patterns glowing softly but steadily. She had never spoken in public like this before, and every eye in the room was on her. Ethan watched from the human delegation, feeling a mixture of pride and anxiety. He had seen Searle grow from a cautious, curious observer into someone willing to take risks for truth. Today, she would risk more than anyone realized. The council leader began, voice calm but carrying weight. "We are here to discuss the influence of humanity on Velari culture. Allegations have been made that humans manipulate emotional responses to gain advantage." Murmurs ran through the chamber. Searle's lights brightened slightly, a sign of tension. She stepped forward. The room fell silent. "I speak not as a representative of the Velari Union alone," Searle began, her voice steady. "I speak as one who has observed humans closely. I have seen them act without expectation of reward. I have seen courage and honesty expressed freely. I have learned that words can carry truth, not just protocol." She paused, allowing her words to settle. Many Velari delegates shifted, uncomfortable with such openness. Humans remained silent, letting her speak. "When this human called me gorgeous," Searle continued, It was not flattery, it was honesty. It revealed something that our culture hides. That expression of emotion does not weaken us. It strengthens understanding. It strengthens trust, and it inspires courage. Ethan felt his chest tighten. She was speaking not only for herself but for him, for humanity. He realized that she had accepted the human way, not blindly but thoughtfully, with her own understanding. A delegate stood, voice sharp and accusing. "Young Sorrel, your words challenge centuries of tradition. Do you not fear punishment for this breach?" Sorrel's lights pulsed with calm determination. "Fear is natural, but it does not dictate truth. Strength is not measured by silence alone. Strength is measured by the willingness to face consequences for what is right. Humans show this every day. I have seen it firsthand." The chamber grew tense. Some Velari looked uncomfortable, others intrigued. Searle's words carried weight. She was not attacking tradition but showing a different form of power, one humans understood intuitively. The leader leaned forward. "And what do you propose, Observer Searle?" "Let humans remain as partners," she said. "Let them teach us that honesty, courage, and compassion are tools, not weaknesses. Let us learn from them, not fear them. We do not weaken our culture by understanding another. We strengthen it." The council debated quietly for a long time. Ethan watched the Velari faces, seeing conflict, curiosity, and finally, acceptance. Their society had always prized control, but Searle's words introduced a new perspective. That openness could coexist with discipline, that strength could include empathy. Finally, the leader spoke. "The Council recognizes the value of this perspective. Humanity's presence will continue under careful guidance. Observer Searle has shown wisdom beyond her years. Her testimony demonstrates that honesty is not manipulation. The alliance is affirmed." Relief and quiet celebration spread through the human delegation. Ethan exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of tension lift. But Searle did not relax immediately. Her lights dimmed to a soft, steady glow, the Velari equivalent of thoughtfulness. She turned to Ethan, eyes shining. "You have changed my understanding," she said softly, "not by words alone but by action. You have taught me that honesty can be courageous." Ethan smiled. "I didn't teach you. You chose to see it for yourself." She tilted her head, a gesture of curiosity and something deeper. "Perhaps, but without your courage, I would not have witnessed it so clearly." Later, as the council ended, the Velari delegation escorted the humans back to the station. Along the corridors, Searle stayed close to Ethan, her lights flickering softly with a rhythm he had begun to understand. It was neither fear nor embarrassment. It was recognition, connection, and something unspoken yet clear. In private quarters, she finally spoke. "Say it again, human." Ethan paused, surprised. He had expected a question, perhaps a comment, but not a simple request. Her light patterns shifted, warm and inviting. "You are gorgeous," he said carefully as he had before. This time Searle smiled, lightly, subtly, but unmistakably. "Again," she said, and again he spoke the words. And again she smiled, allowing herself to feel what those words carried. There was no protocol, no duty, no audience. Just two beings recognizing truth in one another. In the following days, joint missions continued. Humans and Velari worked side by side, exploring new systems, exchanging knowledge and learning from one another. Searle's willingness to embrace humanity's openness inspired other Velari. Slowly she became a bridge, not just between species, but between old traditions and new understanding. Ethan and Searle spent long hours together, translating, exploring, and discussing the universe. Every compliment, every honest expression, every shared moment strengthened a bond that neither fully understood but both valued deeply. The galaxy was vast and full of unknowns. Dangerous factions, uncharted systems, and ancient mysteries waited. But humanity had shown that courage was more than weapons, that honesty was more than words, and that connection could become a force stronger than fear. Searle, now more confident, looked at Ethan with a quiet smile. Her bioluminescent lights glowed warmly, steady, and controlled. "You are different, human. Your species does not rely on control to survive. You rely on truth. That is your strength." Ethan smiled back. "And you're learning it. You've changed too, Cyril. You're brave in ways your people have never seen." She tilted her head, considering his words. "Perhaps we will see more. Perhaps we will see a future where both our peoples learn from one another, where courage is measured not by silence, but by willingness to act, to speak, and to trust." Together, they gazed at the distant stars outside the station's viewport. They were tiny in the vastness of space, but in their honesty, courage, and connection, they carried a light far brighter than any star. As the mission ended, and humanity's first official contact with the Velari Union progressed, the story of two individuals, a human who spoke truth without fear, and an alien who learned to see the power in honesty, spread quietly through both species. It became a lesson in diplomacy, strength, and trust. The galaxy had seen many wars, betrayals, and power struggles, but it had also witnessed something rarer, a bond born from sincerity, courage, and recognition of another's worth. Cyril's last words to Ethan, whispered in private as the stars stretched endlessly around them, were simple yet full of meaning. "Say it one more time, human." And as he did, for the final time, she smiled fully, her lights dancing with warmth and approval. The human heart, so simple yet so powerful, had left its mark, not just on her but on the Velari Union and perhaps on the future of countless worlds. In the end, it was not technology, rank, or conquest that shaped the galaxy. It was honesty. It was courage. It was the human way. And in that truth, humanity and Cyril shone brighter than any star. The story ended not with war or victory, but with understanding, connection, and the promise of what humans could achieve when they spoke honestly, acted bravely, and never feared to show their hearts. And somewhere in a quiet chamber aboard the Velari station, Cyril whispered one last time, letting the word linger in the space between them, a spark of a bond that would never fade. "Gorgeous." Ethan smiled softly, knowing that in that single word, worlds had begun to change.